theory that somehow Michael Jackson was indeed a child molester has never, not one time, been proven, not even in a criminal court.
And I see children with you and they play with you like you are one of them.
Some years ago, before the death of Michael Jackson, Oprah Winfrey did an interview with him. In all the time that she was talking about MJ being a molester of children, she was involved with some of the most notorious molesters there were on God's green earth. There is one major thing that I think many people lose sight of. Did she go after Michael by her own design, or was it the people who were above her that were trying to groom her herself? Some things are known and some things are not. Some things are actually told to you right in your face and it just gets brushed to the side. Some things have been in the forefront and in the public view for so long that you kind of look at it and take it at face value, but when you actually look at it with some new information, it gives a whole new light on what a certain person was actually about. Some years ago, before the death of Michael Jackson, Oprah Winfrey did an interview with him. Now, in this interview, she kept interrupting him and cutting him off while he was trying to explain himself. I'm not going to go into the details of what Michael was or wasn't. However, from our perspective, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of veracity to the options that he was indeed a child molester, although there are tons of people that say it, but people who are close to him, even some of the kids, say that's an untrue statement.
At the candy counter, but the candy's here for all the kids, and Pinocchio's here and E.T.'s here. What's fascinating to me about you is that obviously you have this childlike aura about you. And I see children with you and they play with you like you are one of them. But a child did not do this. A child did not put this together.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, this is really magnificent.
So why is it that when Oprah was interviewing him, she didn't give him the chance to actually flesh out the information that she thought she wanted to get out of him? Well, we have a theory on that. You see, a person who is doing something that they're accusing someone else of, they tend to try and cut you off so that they can put their own narrative and spin on it. You can look at it in any way you want, but usually this is what happens. If I'm guilty of something and I'm trying to make other people believe that someone else is just as guilty as something I'm doing, I'm going to make sure that I put that person in as much of a bad light as I can. See, what that will do is it takes the light off of me, puts it on them, and no one's even going to think to ask about me because look what I'm talking about. See, this was Oprah.
The reason the idea of Michael Jackson or any major person committing sexual abuse against children challenges so many people is because in every family, you have to face that some things are not the way they appear to be. And what people need to accept in their own families is that people can do good things, they can be loving and helpful, and also be an abuser and a person who does bad things. Both can be true.
In all the time that she was talking about MJ being a molester of children, she was involved with some of the most notorious molesters there were on God's green earth. And she was also the same one that would tell people that, hey, if someone's doing it right, they'll make you feel comfortable.
It feels good. I mean, if you're 7 years old and somebody, which I was trying to say this to my friends who had children, you're 7 years old and someone is stroking your penis, it feels good. Right. Even though you don't have a name for what that is, it feels good.
And that was such a particularly...
Even in her interview with the two fellas that were coming forward to say that, hey, this is what Michael did to us. And if you listen to that interview, you can tell that, how should I say it? These brothers were clearly lying. One of them even went so far as to say this. He said this as bold-faced as you can. Well, the grooming began long before we even met Michael.
One of the interesting things about Michael and his particular situation is that the grooming had started long before we ever met him.
I'm not quite sure how someone who has never met you can groom you, but apparently that's possible now. So I probably should be on the lookout for people who are trying to groom me that don't know me as well. I don't know how that works, but apparently in their world, this is how it operates. Oprah in that same interview talked about how I've been trying to bring light to this for forever. You know why? Because if the light is brought by her on a topic that she herself is doing, you will never think to look at her. Not once will you think to look at her. And you will also try to make sure that the person you're interviewing, you either cut them off if they're saying something that would negate your viewpoint, or you will allow them to speak if they're going to make your viewpoint even more solidified. Now, the theory that somehow Michael Jackson was indeed a child molester has never, not one time, been proven, not even in a criminal court. Now, many people will say, well, that's not true. He had to pay this and had to pay that and had to pay the other. There are tons of people who have had to pay stuff that never did anything, just in an effort to shut people up from talking about them, especially when it is ill or wrong.
So a settlement does not mean guilt. Right. I have had multiple lawsuits and I've settled not because I was guilty, it was because it was ultimately cheaper to.
So for that part, I can't say either way. What I can say is that if you are genuinely a victim, money would not deter you from bringing justice to your life. And a lot of these people all turned away from prosecution as long as they were offered some sort of financial gain. Now with Oprah, there is one major thing that I think many people lose sight of. Did she go after Michael by her own design, or was it the people who were above her that were trying to groom her herself? My theory is that it was a little bit of both. I think Oprah gave in to the people that she knew could give her a head start and a leg up. She also gave in to the people who she knew could keep her afloat. I don't for a minute believe that Oprah had a conscience or still does. I think she gave that away a long time ago. And I think that her lifestyle that she had to keep going was dependent on her ability to make other people look a different direction than in hers. Now, when you listen to the interview, you find something very kind of odd. No matter how many times Michael Jackson started to talk about himself as being, this is what I am, this is, she would keep interrupting. I want to make sure I get this right. This is what you mean? Is this what you mean? Is this what you mean?
Bleaching your skin and is your skin lighter because you don't like being black?
Okay, number one, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, they used to have those products growing up. I used to hear, always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons.
Okay, number one, this is the situation. I have a skin disorder.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller.
Okay,
Something like
I just
that.
want to get this straight.
Yeah.
You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin.
Oh God, no.
You did not purposely.
We're trying to control it.
The reason she did that is it's twofold. She can't allow him to fully flesh it out in his own way. So she has to put that little stopgap, twist it a little bit, and put it back into the public view. The second reason she did that was so that no one could think that she didn't put her due diligence into finding out the truth. Meanwhile, she's not really about the truth. What she is about deflection. She's always been about deflection. She has never, ever, 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 ever once come forward to talk about the John of God situation. Ever notice that? She's willing for everyone else to talk about stuff, but not that with her. She didn't want to talk about Harvey either, nor about her school. What do they all have in common? The abuse of young people. But she's going all over the place talking about, I've tried to bring attention to this. I've tried to bring attention. No, you've tried to bring the attention to other people so that no one would look at you. That's all you were trying to do. You're no different than the people who go out and commit war crimes and say, well, look at that country. That country did it first. But you're the one that nuked them. Yeah, but I wouldn't have had to do that if it did. That's Oprah. Glass house, large stones, chucking them across the street. But people won't look at it that way. Fortunately, there are people in Michael Jackson's family who are coming forward saying that this was ridiculous. They were sabotaging this man from the get-go.
I do not believe him when he said that because we know our brother. Michael wouldn't do anything like that. And then he waits until after the passing of Michael, 10 years later, to come out and state this. And they're still in court with the estate.
She brought him onto her show in order to paint him in the worst possible light that she could. One, by not allowing him the chance to flesh out his process of thinking. And two, by supplanting his words with hers. It's a great technique. I can't fault her for doing what she's doing. I really can't. And you can also see in the interview how naive Michael was with all of this. This is my take on the dude, okay? I think he was a stagnated person. I think music was his outlet, and I think in his mind he was very stunted. In his maturity, I mean. I don't think he really grew up. This is just me, not saying anything for people to believe. I'm just saying what I believe. But in that process, you see people who are also predatory. Oprah being one of the biggest predators out there. If you go back through her history, you will notice that she's done this a lot of times. When she did an interview with John of God, okay, sitting around in his mansion, hanging out with him, taking life lessons from him, knowing full well who John of God was, and was hoping people would buy the guru aspect of it. Why? So that you would believe that she's also a guru. So when she says, you get a car and you get a car and you get this, you'll be like, yeah, Oprah knows so much. Oprah knows a lot, all right. She knows exactly how to seduce a child, because that's what she bragged about. Didn't she? She did. When asked about what happened in her school, she didn't say nothing. But talk about Michael, talk about anybody else, she has a lot to say. I did an interview. Then she interviews the victims. The victims go on to lie and solidifies the lie. Because look, whether or not you believe they lie, here's how I can detect one. If I ask you what this was and what that was, and then you give me a story about something that happened to you without those two options, but then want to relate what happened to you to those two options, you're making one, a stretch, and two, you're telling me that you never really actually listened to my question. I ask you specifically about that, but then you tell me about something else that was never related to it, but want me to make the link. Either you're lying or you're hoping I'm dumb enough to believe you. Grooming can't start with somebody I never met. So either your parents forced you to want to be around Michael Jackson, knowing themselves knowing what he was, or what you're saying is a complete made up story. And Oprah was always there for it. She was always on the side of making sure that people believe what narrative she wanted pushed. True or not, it was her perspective that they wanted pushed, no one else's. Now, say what you want about whether or not she was a believable figure or whether or not she had reach on her own, whatever it was, whatever the appeal Oprah had, she milked it for all it was worth. And all of the backdoor dealings that she had with people that had nefarious intent, she kept secret. Until recently. And we're here for it, because for all that she's done in the past, it is now coming to light, and hopefully, I'm not saying it will happen, hopefully, something will come of it where she actually pays the piper. I'm not holding my breath for it, because she's still, whether we like it or not, in the company and the protection of the do-dirties. And they'll protect their own. Even when they throw them under the bus, if they find just a hint that they're going to squeal, they're going to start protecting them. Or, the other option, I don't think that'll happen to Oprah, though. I think she'll end up riding into the sunset because of how much good she's done to do-dirties. She has brought a lot to the table when it comes to the nefarious dealings of the do-dirties. She's one of their top dogs in the fight. Let's not get it twisted. Oprah's been at this for a long time. And I'm sure there are tons of things we have not unearthed yet about her. We can only find them probably after she's gone. It might be too late to bring her to justice by then, if ever. But from what we can see right now, one of the top dogs in all of this is Oprah Winfrey. And it seems as though her entire career, from the very inception to now, has been about not just protecting her people above her, but protecting herself by casting doubt on the ones that she hated most that could possibly put her to death. And I don't mean physically. I mean her entire career. So what does she do? She brings forward information, interviews somebody, puts them in a dark light, and now she's the hero. This is Oprah Winfrey. She's the big dog. And everyone else suffers as a result.